that sound? That is the sound of your ears about to drool right now. Welcome to another episode of Barrett and Baxa. Whether you're a first-time listener, maybe a last-time listener, you have won the podcast jackpot today. Bobby B, tell them what they've won.
All right, we have coming up on today's episode of the B&B. ICE raids in LA prove that once again today's Democrat Party is completely hijacked by radical far-left lunatics. Elon Musk versus Donald Trump. Serious feud or complete bullshit? And Bob admits to an extremely shameful activity, and Steve elbows Jean-Claude Van Damme in the face. All that and much, much more on today's episode of the B&B Media Schmedia podcast.
Welcome to Barrett and Baxa Media Schmedia. Everyone else has a podcast, why not us? Come along and join the chosen few as we mock the media and ridicule the ridiculous. Get ready as we excite the ears, irritate the eyes, and tantalize the taste buds. Okay, maybe not the taste buds, but you get the point. Let's get the party started. Here's Steve Barrett and Bob Baxa.
I hate to bring it up again, but another spectacular new open, Bob, for the show. And guess what I removed? I removed the stupid cartoon versions of us.
Oh, right. The inaccurate cartoons was showing you as a 12-year-old boy and me as an
Look,
old
here, and I figured out how that
kind
happened.
of
It
sketchy.
turns out if you send someone a picture to use for the cartoon that is like 20 years old, you look 20 years younger in that picture.
Who could have ever
I know.
thought that
Well,
such
this
a
is
thing would
these are the
happen?
perils of and pitfalls of podcasting because you know you make mistakes like last week.
learn as you
Like
go.
last week
Yeah.
when I uploaded something and we're using this new platform called Riverside.fm for those of you out there trying to podcast. It actually works very well and we like it a lot. We like it better than Zoom.
We love it.
No offense, Zoom, but you're not really for podcasters. But I must have clicked some button or something, some AI filter. So if you noticed, I sounded like I was in a tin can. And then I quickly re-edited and uploaded it. So hopefully not too many people heard the version that I sound like I'm off in another planet.
The content is so good that the audio quality is less.
Yeah, none of that matters. What does matter is if
like
people
this.
they should like us, subscribe to us, comment, send us emails,
Right.
barrettandbaxa at gmail.com, because we do want to hear from all of you people, and we will call you out on the podcast if you'd like. Just send us some information, we'll or send us some complaints or some critiques, and we'll do what we do.
So speaking of people that I just was talking about, my friend Tyler, like a couple of episodes ago, and I'm so frustrated right now. This is not, it's not a fun topic, but at the same time, you have to laugh or you'll cry. Anyone who's dealing with an addict in your life, you can understand my frustration. This guy is a great friend of mine. He's only 30. We met in rehab at the Salvation Army. We stayed friends. I've known him for 10 years now, and he had 5 years clean. He was the same clean date as me. He had like 4 or 5 years clean. He relapsed, and even the word relapse to me is a cop-out. A relapse means you felt like getting high again.
Yeah.
Let's face it. It's not like a special thing called a relapse, but whatever. Everyone uses the word relapse. And a lot of people in recovery say that relapse is part of recovery. I say that's bullshit. I did have one relapse. Most addicts do, but it's not like it has to be a part of it. You can just stay clean, but this guy was doing good. He had 2 months clean. He had just gotten out of rehab again. He's in a sober facility. And this weekend, he decided to go out and do meth again. So I'm super frustrated. And if you have a family member who's, going through this, I don't have a good sort of answer for you. The bottom line is you can't get someone else clean. There's nothing you can do. Getting clean comes from within your own brain.
Yeah.
So this is why a lot of addicts do this thing called pulling a locational. And what that means is, let's say I have all my drug friends are in Orlando, and all my drug dealers are in Orlando, and I say, well, the way I'll get off drugs is I'll move to New York, and then I won't know any
This
dealers.
doesn't work?
Yeah, that doesn't work. Within 36 hours of living in New York, you will meet the new dealer.
Oh, wow.
So
It's that easy, huh? Wow.
It is. The thing that goes with you, when I moved to Fort Lauderdale originally to get away from the drugs in New York. And it took me about 3 days, 4 days, I had all new dealers. Believe me, addicts can find dealers. So
all right.
the person has to decide
prayers for
within their
Tyler.
own brain. Yeah, prayers for Tyler. I mean, he's back out there, so we'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys updated.
Well, sorry to hear that.
Let you know, but let's get to the fun
Yeah.
stuff.
All right, let's get to the fun stuff. Well, I don't know if this is the fun stuff, but it's the media, Schmedia, and what we cover, the commentary that we do here.
We have fun
on the Barrett
doing
and Bob
it, yeah.
Baxa podcast. See, I did it again.
Right.
Barrett and Bob Baxa. We should have called it the Barrett and Bob Baxa podcast because your name flows
that
so
doesn't
well.
work.
Bob Baxa.
It does.
It's almost
Bob
like one
Baxa
word.
works.
Bob
It's
Baxa.
one name, Bob Baxa.
It's like a bump, or what's?
Ba.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's alliterative.
The first thing we were going to talk about, though, is the ICE raids that are going on.
Yes.
L.A., New
Yes.
York. There's all kinds of violence erupting around these ICE raids, and it really is getting disturbing.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, this, to me, it's perfect. This is a perfect example of how the left, and I said it in the show open, the Democrat Party, we know there are reasonable Democrats out there, but they are unheard.
They don't have a voice right now.
The party has been hijacked by radical far-left lunatics. They're the ones who scream the loudest. They're in charge of the party. And, I mean, if you're trying to be a moderate Democrat politician and you come out and say, we really do need to deport some of these people, boom, your career is over. Like, you can't say that. You can't say, it's not fair for boys to play girl sports. My shirt, save girl sports. You can't say that. You have to do all the radical far left positions. And, on January 6th, when police were attacked, the left is losing their shit over January 6th, but they attacked ICE officers in L.A. So,
and I'll tell you what, when January 6th happened, I hated it, man. I was like, what are these people doing? This is not our party. We don't do things like that.
Right. But it was a run-of-the-mill riot.
But on the right, I think that you can disagree. You can say, we're going to get into it in just a little while. Last week I told you I completely disagree with this stupid Crisley pardon. This week we're going to get into the two sides of the Donald Trump, Elon Musk thing. But the ICE raids, I mean, it's pretty obvious. These are officers of the law. And now on the far left, and I differentiate between the far left and the mid left, because the mid left, I don't have a problem with, man. These are people that really have their convictions, and they don't think that you should trample on other people's rights because of your own convictions. But I think this far left group says, well, we're going to trample on everybody else's rights to get what we want. And I don't think that's right. And I mean, it's ridiculous the way they're acting towards these law enforcement officers.
Well, I would ask, do you guys want anyone deported? Do you want any deportations at all in the United States? Because it really seems like they do not want anyone deported. You want all 20 million or 40 million or whatever 100 million people that Joe Biden allowed in. You want them all to stay. You want amnesty. You want them all made citizens. And in your mind, they will all vote Democrat. It is the great replacement theory. It's not a theory. It's a plan that the Democrat Party has been doing. Americans have universally rejected your death cult of a political party, and you have to import brown people from South America so they will now vote Democrat.
And it's backfiring on them. I mean, that's backfiring on them. And they're not getting what they want when they decided they were going to import their new voter rolls.
Well, they forgot the one thing about human nature. I work with a guy who's Mexican. He is a citizen. His mother brought him into our country illegally when he was 7 years old. And now he's like pro-Trump, anti-immigration. And I'm like, dude, you got in here illegally. What are you talking about? He's like, I don't care.
There are many Hispanic people that are like that. And the left wants to act like they don't exist. But I'll tell you what, Hispanic people are, they're very conservative. Many of them very religious, especially Catholic, socially very conservative, and they are family oriented. I mean, this is a group that, for the most part, man, they stick their cousins and their sister-in-laws, sisters, mom, dad,
All
everybody, the
extended
whole
family,
extended
yes.
family is super important to them, and they don't, they make sure that they stick together as a family. I think that's super important, and it's just.
I mean, don't you think the Democrat Party is trying to destroy the nuclear family? And hear me out.
I
This
do.
is why I think they are. If the family is the most important thing in your life, then you're going to turn to your family when you need help. But if the family can be destroyed, then you're going to turn to the government. And the Democrats are communist. This current Democrat Party is a communist party.
Yeah.
They truly want all-powerful government. We saw it during COVID. The government will decide where you can go. Do you own a small mom and pop hardware store? Well, COVID spreads in there, so you have to shut down. Are you Home Depot? COVID can't spread in Home Depot, so you're allowed to stay open.
And the mask
we
thing.
saw the ridiculous.
I mean, now it's okay to wear a mask because of COVID, but you can't wear a mask if you're doing undercover work as an ICE agent.
Right, that's the new thing. The ICE agents. Hakeem Jeffries just recently, now this is the highest ranking Democrat.
Such
in
a
the House of
foolish statement.
Representatives,
Tell him, yeah.
came out and said, he came out and said that ICE agents, why are they wearing masks? They should not be
And he
wearing
said,
masks.
we're
And
going
I'll
to
tell you,
find out
Hakeem,
who you are. He took it
correct.
further.
And I'll tell you, yes. And I'll tell you why, Hakeem. The reason they have to wear masks is because of your psychotic death cult of a political party. You're trying to hunt down these agents. They're being doxxed. Their faces are being put up on posters in the hood, and their families are being attacked. So, of course, they have to hide their identity. And I would have one question for you.
And I'll explain to you. You say what you're going to say, then I want to explain why these ICE agents wear their masks, because I know why.
Well, yeah, I would ask one question. Why, if you're someone who's so upset, like my friend Julie Dietz wants the masks taken off, give me one legitimate reason. Why do you need to see what an ICE agent's face looks like? I mean, I would love to hear.
What's the reason? Are you going to their house? Or are you going to find them in the grocery store? What are you going to do?
Are you going to send them an invite?
But
somewhere?
here's why.
Or are you
they
gonna dox
want
them?
to be able to tip off. They want to be able to know when that guy's an ICE agent. So, and here's why these ICE agents are wearing their masks. And it goes back to, so many years ago, journalists used to go a lot more with on SWAT raids. And so I've been on many, dozens and dozens of SWAT raids where you're taking down a drug house. I used to keep a bulletproof vest in my news van.
Way.
And I would go on these raids with them. This was back when Cops was just coming out, and you'd actually go into the houses with them until that stopped after the police somewhere went into the wrong house and this woman had a heart attack. But in any case, they would always tell us, that officer, that officer, that officer, you cannot show their face. And if their face does end up being seen, could you do us a favor and cover it or not use that shot of them or blur their face or something like that, because they have to go out the next day and do a job undercover in a dangerous situation. And with the ICE agents, one of the things they do is before they make an arrest, they will do a little bit of reconnaissance. So they'll walk by the house, they'll figure out, well, when does this person that we need to arrest go regularly to a place where we can safely arrest them and we don't have to do it at a place where we could get in a gunfight or where there would be a big scuffle. So they're trying to protect their identity so that they can do their job more effectively. And the voters want them to do the job effectively. But the left, the far left, not the mid left, the far left wants them to do their job effectively.
I mean, this is why Trump got elected. This is one of the major reasons Trump got elected. You guys created this mess. You let in 20 million people unvetted. We have no idea.
And the children.
We're going to talk more about some of what kinds of people you allowed in, but we have to now clean up your mess. And, we're not interested in your critique of the brand of mop we are using to clean up the mess you made on the floor. Just say thank you for cleaning up the mess and go about your
And also find the children that were lost in the previous administration.
300,000 missing.
And we were talking about how Trump got so much criticism for kids in cages, which were not really cages. They were more like holding facilities that Obama built, and they were referred to as cages. AOC cried while visiting.
She cried outside an
Yeah.
empty building where nobody was. I
But
mean, here's the thing. First of all, they were not cages, and as you said, they were built by Obama. But my question to you, Steve, I mean, give me an answer. If a 12-year-old girl shows up at the border unaccompanied, all right, you don't want us to deport her. You want us to let her in, but we can't just say, "Okay, sweetheart,
Go get
bye."
a job at 12. Yeah.
So go
Rent
do
an
whatever.
apartment.
So you don't want us to deport her. You don't want us to put her in the cage, which is
A
really
detention
facility
for children.
It's a detention facility. All right. So what would you like us to do?
Well, it's not
with
even a
12-year-old
detention
girl?
facility. It's a holding facility that's a safe place for them to be until we can sort out where you go next and vet the people that you go with. So that's the part that got
And-
skipped was the vetting.
Yes, the vetting.
It's like
This
it's
last
Seinfeld
week-
holding the reservation. That's the most important part of the reservation. The most important part of finding a place for these
Taking
kids.
reservations,
Yeah,
left and right.
take the reservations. They're
Right.
just
You can
they're
take the
skipping over
reservation. You
the
can't hold
vetting
it.
process and just letting these kids go with whomever.
Sorry, I had to take a drink of water. I get very dry doing the
did, yeah.
podcast, so I guess you do as well. And it came out this last week that apparently, so the Biden administration, after Trump 1.0, you guys all had your performative crying at the cages and screaming. You kept saying children are being ripped from their mother's arms. And then just recently, when we deported a woman and we let her take her kid with her, you threw a temper tantrum about that. So it's like, do you want the rip? Do you want you're complaining about both. But anyway, the Biden administration came up with a brilliant plan. And what they said was, oh, we know what we'll do. We'll take a 16-year-old girl and we'll let her go live with a 38-year-old man who is unvetted and whose history we know nothing about. And as it has recently come out, this girl was being sexually abused by this guy. Shocking. Who could have ever predicted that an unrelated man would sexually abuse a 16-year-old girl? So that's your alternate to kids in cages.
Right. Well, that was our first topic. Now we're going to move on to the other
got me
big.
all
So
worked up right out of the gate.
two big topics this week. One of them is those ICE raids that are currently going on,
Right.
and another one is this blow up between Trump and Musk. And whether
Right.
is that a real thing? Is that maybe a medical or a psychological thing that has happened? What's your opinion, Bob? What do you think happened there?
Well, right out of the gate, as soon as I saw, when it first started happening, that first day, which is, by the time you guys are listening to this, it's probably almost a week ago, and Musk started putting these tweets, and then Trump was tweeting. It occurred to me, tell me if this isn't a plausible scenario. So Elon Musk's time as a temporary employee of the government is over. So he has completely destroyed the Tesla brand. The only people who buy Teslas are libs. So no conservative is really buying a Tesla. So Elon says to himself, how do I get these stupid sheeple back to buying my Teslas? And he says, I know. I'll get into a feud with Trump. I'll start saying really bad shit about Trump. And then immediately the extremely dumb liberals, because they have no brains that work, will immediately start liking me again and will immediately start buying Teslas again. And lo and behold, that next day, MSNBC, NBC, all the stupid talking heads were now pro-Musk. So that's my possible plausible scenario. But you have a different...
and this comes from
different
someone
thought.
who contributes in the background often to the B&B podcast, which is Steve's sister, Carrie. And we have not
Carrie Barry, yes,
introduced
she's awesome.
my sister, Carrie, yet. My sister, Carrie, is an extremely intelligent woman. And one of the things, she's done many things in her life and career and education. One of them is she's essentially an expert on autism. So she's the person that would, without getting into the way it all works, she essentially would write the plan for an autistic person. She would go in and go to the home of the parents of an autistic child, and she would say, okay, let me evaluate this child, their place on the autism spectrum, and then develop a plan to help them,
Like an
action plan to help them
report kind of
deal
thing.
with them. So she has great knowledge in the field of autism. And she said to me immediately, she said, well, I think that this might have something to do with his autism. He has said that he's diagnosed with Asperger's, which it's my understanding now that that term is an older term that they don't really use. They kind of use the spectrum.
I can't keep track of
right.
the
Well,
terms.
apparently
Yeah,
it
I
keeps
don't know.
changing. My sister Carrie says it keeps
does.
changing all the time. But as we had this conversation, I said, Carrie, why don't you do me a favor? Can you get on the camera with me and explain to me some of what you're telling me, because I'd love to use it on the podcast. So, Bob, I want to share this little bit. I'm going to share 2 clips from the interview with my sister Carrie. And you'll have a different, I don't want to say you're going to have a different opinion when it's over, but you'll have a different perspective of a possibility of what it was that happened with Elon Musk. And it goes back to him ending his time of deep focus on the budget of the federal government, because he's been laser focused on that for a long time. And people have said, like Peter Bernard said it in an interview that we did a little while ago, that Peter Bernard wants him to go back to the rockets, go back to the robots, go back to making the cars. And Carrie says that it's that period of transition that sometimes with an autistic person can cause some pretty crazy outbursts, like the Twitter outbursts that he was having. So let me share this clip.
He's got a hyper focus, and now he's demonstrating a lack of psychological flexibility. He had a mission in his head, and people can debate whether this is genius or autism. I'm not a diagnostician that way, but he had a hyper focus. This is the mission that I'm setting out to accomplish, and that is a diagnostic criteria, is, a restricted hyper focused interest. And his interest was getting the net deficit down from trillions to 0, right? Like, that's his goal.
Right.
And so now he sees this bill, and he's got to deal with people who he sees an answer, he sees the path to the answer, and he doesn't understand the pragmatics of sometimes you can't just go from point A to point B.
Right.
You can't go straight through the mountain. You have to go around the mountain, and sometimes there's a longer path you have to take. So to me, he's just demonstrating a lack of psychological flexibility, which would be characteristic of him having a hyperfixation. And so to me, that's what's happening here. His autism, his Asperger's. That's what it appears like to me.
That made me look at it very completely differently.
Well, think about Rain Man. Everyone's seen Rain Man, the movie. When, Rain Man had to have, like, the menu had to be on the table here, and the toothpicks had to be over here, and if the bed was not in the right place, and obviously Rain Man was much more profoundly disabled than whatever, he was supposed to have in the movie. But it's kind of the same thing. When these people have this hyper focus, and all of a sudden you take away their focus and they start freaking out. So that is actually, I think, a very good.
I kind of liken it to Napoleon Dynamite. Kip, stay at home and eat all the chips. There were many moments where Napoleon Dynamite. I don't know whether he was supposed to be autistic or anything, but he would suddenly shout something like crazy, and that's what happened. So I had one other question for Carrie, and that was what happens now. So. How does Elon Musk deal with this in his own brain? And she had an interesting response to that as well. So here's that. Is it like having a hangover where you wake up the next day and you're like, I can't believe what I did last night? Or is he not going to care?
No, he won't care. The other diagnostic criteria is the idea of, like, a poor social emotional inability to read other people, to engage with other people, and you see that he's very tunnel visioned, and he's very, and everyone's happy when he's making them millions of dollars and his companies are doing well. No one cares if you're tunnel visioned and you're driven and whatever, but when it doesn't go along with the way that you need to navigate the world, then it becomes a disruption to everybody else around you. But he still probably sees it exactly the way he sees it, and I don't really think you see him change that. I mean, someone might get a hold of him whose opinion he respects, and he might be able to be talked back and coached through some psychological flexibility, but on his own, I don't see that happening.
Well, I could easily see somebody else in his orbit who has his ear
saying,
whether
please
it's this
delete
other
those
billionaire,
tweets,
Bill Ackman,
which he did. He
saying,
deleted
"Dude,
some
you
of
know,
them,
you need-"
and he
Yeah.
backtracked on
And
some
that
of it.
guy, he did. Bill Ackman, who's a very famous billionaire, and he's like a Trump supporter now. He used to be a Democrat, and he was like, look, for the good of the country, it would be better for you guys to come together. And Elon tweeted, you're not wrong. So who knows what's going to happen? The whole thing, it could be all for the Epstein client list. It could be that Trump and Elon thought this up so the Democrats would start demanding the Epstein client list. I guarantee that. Here's how I know Trump is not on the Epstein client list. Because if he was, that fact would have been leaked
many years ago.
Before
the first
election. The Democrats
election.
have tried, they've tried everything with this guy. Whatever is out there on Trump has been discovered. There's nothing new to discover on Donald Trump. That I can assure you.
All right. So next thing up. So there's one less Obama in the family now.
What?
Yeah. Did you hear about this?
What happened?
Malia dropped the Obama name. You know that this happened. You made fun of her yourself. So she wants to go by Malia Ann now. I thought at first I thought that she wanted to be like Rihanna or Madonna or Cher, but it's Malia Ann. So I think she's just using. But my daughter does that too. My daughter's always like to call herself Julia Rose, which is her.
I saw that on Facebook.
So she.
Now, did you hear why she's doing this, though? Did you see the official reason for why?
Yeah, she doesn't want people to think that she got where she's going, which she didn't. I don't know where she's gotten to so far, but
she wants to avoid charges of nepotism.
There you go.
Sweetheart, I hate to break it to you, but there are going to be charges of nepotism, no matter what you do. First of all, how delusional do you have to be to think that by simply changing your last name, that any prospective employer is not going to know that Barack Obama is your father? I mean, they know he's your father. And you might as well embrace it. There's nothing you could do to change the fact that he's your father. Just embrace it. Go ahead and get a job based on your name and stop being silly. You're not going to eliminate charges of nepotism.
Well, but hey, good on her.
You come from a
Honestly,
family where the women are-
this is making people talk about her. I mean, we're talking
That's
about
true.
her right now. Normally, we wouldn't
would
be
have never
talking
talked
about
about
her.
her.
I mean, we're not talking about Chelsea
definitely.
Clinton at all anymore. You know,
Correct.
so
No.
she has to get a job that she doesn't deserve on the Today Show. Boy, that ended poor. That ended. Man,
Right.
remember that?
And
Remember
really,
when she?
if you get mentioned on the Barrett and Back,
Oh, that's like the top of the.
line,
That is the best thing. Wait, though, but
So good for her.
I want to make fun of USA Today right now because
right, they do.
they wrote an article about the whole thing, but in the middle of the article, they this is the quote right out of the thing. She says the Obamas also share University of Southern California alum Sasha Obama. What kind of a
Why do
line
they have to
is
say it like
that?
that?
Why don't they just say
That's
they
so
have
good.
another daughter named Sasha? I mean, like
Right.
it's
No,
it's like they
almost
have
like
to say
USA
USC.
Today is-
She's USC alum.
Well, it just shows you the media are they're like the press secretary for the Democrats. Anytime there's a Democrat story, they're going to present it in a positive way. And anytime there's a Republican story, it's going to be presented negatively. I mean, like, if a Democrat does something bad, if a Democrat is, caught in bed with a prostitute, the story will be, Republicans say that John Doe was caught in bed with a prostitute. It's always presented as a favor. As if you can make it favorable to the Democrats, you do. And that's, it's one of our focuses here on Media Schmedia is just how much the media is in the bag for the Democrats.
Yeah, and it show one thing that it shows that happened the last week is their reaction to KJP, to the Binder.
Oh yeah,
Binder.
Yeah.
So
she's announced that she's an independent now, and she's coming out with a book.
So the press
first of
secretary
all-
that told us that nothing was wrong in the White House, there's no problem at all in the White House, is apparently now going to write a book about a problem in the White House. But my question about the book, it'll be interesting to see it, is she going to complain that Biden was pushed out? Or is she going to complain
sure.
that Biden was truly not capable of running the country? Because I don't see how she says that without making herself
That's
look
the
like an
problem
idiot.
for all of them. Well, she is an idiot. I mean, here's my impression of her. Kareem, what did you have for breakfast this morning? Oh, let me see.
Let me look it up.
Hang on a second. Oh, I had Fruit Loops this morning for breakfast. Like, this woman could not answer any question without reading it off of her stupid binder. She is without a doubt the dumbest press secretary we have ever had. And it just shows you, it's all identity politics. She was bulletproof, and now all the knives are out now on Team Biden. They're all coming out and saying what an absolute moron she was. It's all over the media that, anonymous sources who are obviously just other, Biden world people are saying that she was horrible and they hated her, but she was untouchable because she's black. The Democrat Party, you have made this for yourselves. You can't fire black people. Like, no matter how...
Well, especially if you add queer to that.
You can't fire them.
Especially
if you're black and queer... Forget it.
So,
you're completely...
Bob, I'm going to throw you a clip that we hadn't had planned because I'll tell you who says it, and he always says it very well, man. When you're watching CNN, this guy says it the best, and that's Scott Jennings. So hang on, let me get this Scott Jennings up, and you will you're going to love this one. Here it comes.
I have a different view. I'd like to congratulate Democrats for ridding yourselves of this untalented mediocrity. I mean, this is the most self-aggrandizing liar that has ever held this job. White House press secretary is a sacred position, and she stood up there for years and lied through her teeth to the American people.
My friend, and she's not the first.
She is the literal worst White House press secretary in my lifetime. And what she did in the last year and a half of the Biden administration, cheap fakes, the entire cover-up around the president's mental faculties, she was in the center of it.
So you think she's doing this to launder herself?
So congratulations for getting rid of this, but Democrats deserve everything they're getting here for putting her in that job in the first place.
So I would
All right, there it is. Hang on. Stop sharing. It's absolutely true. Democrats deserve
100%.
everything that they get for this debacle, and they deserve everything that they get with these books coming out, whether they're going to be competing books, the Tapper book and KJP's book.
They put an incompetent fool in that job. She's horrible. She couldn't talk. She's utterly incompetent, and they did it. And they only care. I mean, they care about the dumbest shit. Like, why? It's even when Joe Biden nominated Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. What he should have done was said, "I'm going to appoint the absolute best person. It might be a white man. I don't know who it's going to be. I have
to
no
say
idea."
coming out of
And
the
then
gate that it's going to be a woman of color.
It turns out that she's a black woman. That I didn't even know that. But he went into it and said, "I'm going to nominate a black woman." So now, of course, everyone thinks she got the job because she's black. Which she did. Karine Jean-Pierre, same thing. She said on day one, "I'm well aware that I'm the first queer black lesbian."
That's the first thing she said, I think, right out of the gate. That was in the first press briefing.
Right. And it's like, dude, sweetheart.
Nobody cares.
No one cares. We don't care about your melanin level or what you do at night with your genitalia. No one is interested. No one cares. Yeah. And yet you people are obsessed with it. And because you're obsessed, this is what you get. You
your
get
own fault. Like Jennings said.
The inability to remove it. Yeah, you can't get rid of them.
Yeah, and another thing, as long as we're on the subject of these books, we were also talking earlier about how CNN, even though Jake Tapper came out and said that it's a fact that Joe Biden had diminished mental capacity, according to his, 200 sources, CNN still, at times, refers to that whole idea as a conspiracy theory.
Well, I mean, CNN is
Tapper's their own reporter.
Right. He's their main guy. CNN has a main anchor who wrote a book that Joe Biden's brain didn't work. And then at the same time, CNN other anchors, when Trump has recently said, I think it's possible that Joe Biden's brain didn't work. That's a conspiracy theory. Yeah. So they're like schizophrenic, man. They don't know which direction to go in. And it's just impossible, I think, for them to get their credibility back. CNN's credibility is gone. It's not coming back.
All right. Enough about Raggedy Ann and fake Tapper. Clank it.
Okay, so coming up now, we have a very good rising star in the Republican Party. This guy is awesome. I love this guy. His name is Brandon Gill. He's a congressman from Texas. Do you know, Steve, that he's actually married to Dinesh D'Souza's daughter?
I did not know that. You are just full of trivia.
I just found that out.
You are just full of these little gems of knowledge.
Stuff. But this guy's really good because he asks really good questions of the leftist mental cases that have to testify in front of Congress. He did some really good questions of the Harvard presidents. Of course, Elaine Stefanik was a star in that hearing as well, but this guy did some really good questions. And recently they had, they're looking into the NGOs. The Doge thing has found that an NGO is a non-governmental organization. Right. And these are companies that get their money from the government, and the government basically says, "Here, hey, company X," or
they outsource government projects.
Yeah, hey, company X, take this $400 million and now promise that you're going to do good things. I mean, we're going to take your word for it.
We're not going to double check you. We're not going to audit you. We're not going to look at your books or anything. We're just going to trust that you do what you say.
We're going to give you $400 million.
It's like giving a young migrant child to somebody.
To somebody. Dude.
We'll just here.
Yeah, who then rapes her. So he's got this woman who's from an NGO, and he is asking her some questions about some of the things that her organization has said in the past. And I think we do. Clip.
President Trump is a racist?
I don't believe that's relevant to this hearing.
Do you believe that he is?
I'm not here to discuss my personal beliefs. I'm here to speak about the important work
you've tweeted that he's a vile, despicable racist. Do you believe that much of his housing policy was racist during his first term?
I'm here to talk about the vital work that nonprofit
so you're not going to answer me.
Do throughout our country and in your district.
It's explicitly racist and deeply harmful. Is that right?
I don't have the tweet in front of me.
I've got it right here. You did tweet that. We did that on September 25th, 2020. You said it's explicitly racist and deeply harmful. Do you know who President Trump's Secretary of Housing and Urban Development was during his first term?
Yes.
Who is it? Who was it?
It was Secretary Carson.
A black man. I think that's the point of what you were getting at there, Bob, is that
he is so good, man. I love him.
And I liked that too. That was Right Wave Media, Bob. You turned me on to that because I had never seen this before. So Right Wave Media, if you look them up on YouTube, essentially they put up all that congressional shenanigans, all of those good back and forths that we always miss because we don't sit around watching C-SPAN all day long. Yeah,
right.
But there's a lot of good clips on that. Go ahead.
One other thing that he said that I really loved is, so this same chick, he said to her, "Are you a racist?" Because he was asking her if Trump's a racist, and you heard she couldn't, she's hemming and hawing. And then he said, "Well, are you a racist?" And she didn't answer. It took him 3 tries, and finally she said, "No, I'm not a racist." And then he said, "Oh, that's interesting that you say you're not a racist, because right here," and he pulls out the thing, he says, "Right here you tweeted that denial of racism is covert white supremacy." So let me just interject. This is where
she's being a covert white supremacist by denying that she's.
If you're a racist, you're bad. If you're not a racist and you say you're not a racist, then you're a covert white supremacist. So it's heads you win, heads I win.
So if she is not a racist, she is then a covert white supremacist.
Yes, by her definition. So he said to her, "Are you a covert white supremacist?" And of course she realized, again, these people can never answer the question because they know that the far left will crucify.
Well, that clip continued. I can play that clip. Let's see if he gets there with her. Stand by.
He does.
All due respect, sir, I am not here to talk about former HUD secretaries. I'm here to talk about the essential work
extensively
that
about
nonprofits do in your district and throughout the country.
Okay, we can move on then if you want to answer the question. Are you a racist?
With all due respect, sir, I'm here to talk about the essential
Here
work
it comes.
that nonprofits do.
Excuse me, that's a
throughout
very
the
simple
country.
question. Yes or no question. Are you a racist?
I'm not a racist.
You're not a racist. Particularly interesting because according to one of your affiliate charities under your nonprofit umbrella, denial of racism constitutes covert white supremacy. Are you a covert white supremacist?
Sir, I'm here to talk about the essential work that nonprofits
Are you a
do.
covert white supremacist?
Can I
A patriot.
Oh man, that's great. No, that was a good one, Bob. You come up
He's
with good ones.
He's a star.
I got to give Bob
He's
credit
good.
on the
I like that.
podcast. One of the things Bob is very good at is finding little clips that are going to be very interesting to our listeners and viewers, and that happens to be
Yes.
one of them.
That guy's good. Keep that guy's name, Brendan Gill. He's very young. I mean, if you look at the guy, he looks like he's 25. I think he's probably in his 30s. I don't know his exact age, but I highly doubt he's 40. And I mean, this guy is really a rising star. I mean, 20 years from now, this guy could easily be a potential presidential candidate.
Well-
so keep your eye on Brendan Gill.
All right, we'll come back 20 years from now on the podcast that we
All
do
right.
20 years from now, and we'll talk about
On
how
our
you
1000th
predicted this 20
show.
years ago. That'll be our
All right, cool.
10,000th show at this point. All right, so next up is another statement from the office of Bob Baxa.
right.
The office of Bob Baxa is a
one's gonna be live.
newly created office with its own spokesperson. We often get some of these press releases. I just showed it on the air. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it's an official statement from the office of Bob Baxa. And in this statement, all it says is that Bob will be making a live podcast statement about a shameful act.
Well,
A shameful
here's the thing.
act, Bob.
Yeah.
By
it's
you?
It's really, yes, it's bad.
By you.
It's really bad. I mean, I've told the listeners about, taking heroin and basically passing out from the heroin and God, all the horrible, and this is a million times worse than all of those things put together.
What'd you do?
This activity, well, I have to tell you that I went to a tanning salon, and I didn't go
What?
just one time, Steve. Yes, I went to a tanning salon. I bought a 10-pack of tans at the tanning salon, and I went.
Wow.
To the tanning salon.
I
It's so
learned these things about you after you've already
It's
done
so
them.
funny. First of all, this business, the whole thing about going to a tanning salon, I don't know if you're supposed to call it a salon or whatever. It's a business that has tanning booths, and this business, it's near where I live. It's like 2 hallways. There's a cashier in the middle, and like 2 hallways, and there's rooms on each side. I'm gonna say there's 20 rooms. Every single time I go, it's completely full. There's a line. I have to stand in line to get to the cashier, who then assigns you to your room. Almost every time I have to wait for one of the beds to become available. And it's like you're looking around at the people and you want to be like, what is wrong with you people? Why are you here? Don't you know this is bad for you? Like,
Yeah,
tanning
is it
horrible? Why would you be doing this? And I really find it's like going to a porn store. Like I hide my face. I'm like
Embarrassed to be there?
I'm embarrassed that I'm in there. But here's the thing: I'm so freaking white. I am like
And vain,
so unbelievably
apparently.
Caucasian. I am vain, absolutely. And so this year, I was like, God, my skin. It's almost like. I mean, my skin is like this paper. That's the color of my skin. Naturally, it's ultra
That's
white.
racist.
So I said, let me just go to a tanning booth and get a little base tan. So yes, it's a horrible, shameful activity. The people that go, first of all, the people who work there, imagine in your mind what you think a 20-year-old girl who works at a tanning salon would look like. And I'm here to tell you, she looks exactly like you would expect her to look.
I'll
So
have to
the
try
whole
out a
business
tanning salon
is-
and go check one of
Yeah,
these
it's
things
really
out.
an interesting
I've never even laid,
kind of
and I'll
thing,
admit
but-
it, I've never even laid in a tanning bed.
Well, dude, it's stand up.
Oh.
How cool is that? You stand.
Oh, so it's like
Yeah,
that Friends
the beds
episode
suck.
where Ross is
Yes,
trying to get, is it spray? No. It's,
No, well, they do have
it's
that.
the
I would not
laying
do
there,
that.
get
I don't wanna look like
baking
Donald
in the
Trump.
little,
Yeah, you're laying on plastic. It's horrible. So they do have those.
do you
but
sweat?
They also have a
Do you get all
stand-up.
sweaty and stuff?
You do kind of sweat, but there's fans blowing on you. So you stand there, and they actually
And then are you
have,
tan immediately
bars.
after, or?
You can notice it pretty
Okay.
quick. Like, yeah, I probably don't want to show my
No,
tan line on
I don't-
camera.
I don't
That'd be
need
kinda
to see
weird.
your tan
but,
line, Bob.
The people don't need
Yeah.
to see that. But
That
my
would be
best girl
another
is-
shameful act.
Yes, and my best girl is absolutely disgusted that I'm doing
Really?
this, and she mocks me. Yeah, she mocks me.
Good for
doing
her.
This. She's like, "Why are you doing this?" And really, I have no good reason. It's just something bad that I'm doing. What
Well,
can
you
I
got to,
say?
you have to have
I'm
some
not a person.
vice, at least,
Yeah,
at least
this
it's
is
not
my
the
vice,
drugs,
tanning.
right?
And does everyone realize that a tan is damaged skin? Like, that is what a tan is.
Mm-hmm.
You are damaging your skin, and that's why it's turning brown. So I'm paying money to go to a business to damage my skin. So I'm very ashamed. But I have one more session, and then that'll be it. So
okay, get that over with. Yeah, you'll look great, I'm sure, afterwards. All right, that's it for the office of Bob Baxa.
The office of
All right.
BB.
Next up is we're going to call this Florida Man history. Today.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this is where we go back and we look at the history of Florida Man and things that people in Florida have done. Usually it's going to be a news bit, something funny or maybe something tragic. In this case, it could have been tragic, but it turned out funny. And I, Steve Barrett, am going to play the part of Florida Man in Florida Man history.
You are Florida Man.
So this is the story of the time that I elbowed Jean-Claude Van Damme in the face. So an elbow right to the face for one of the most famous martial art experts in the world. And at the time, he was one of the biggest stars. So this would have been 1994. And the story of how it starts involves multiple big celebrities back in the day when people actually cared about celebrities. I don't think they really do anymore. They're kind of just like, so what? But this was back when Planet Hollywood was the big new thing, and they were opening a new Planet Hollywood in Orlando, Florida. At Universal. Right? Well, no, it wasn't at Universal. It was at Pleasure Island, which is now called Downtown Disney, I think they call it.
Or actually, no.
Oh, it was Disney Springs, and now it was.
Now it's Disney Springs.
It was Downtown Disney. Now it's Disney Springs. But it's still there. This was the big night. And I mean, this night was as big as the Oscars. And in fact, just for background, as I tell the story, I'm going to share screen just a little bit in case you're watching on YouTube. And we're going to see this is some archive footage of the Planet Hollywood party beforehand. So this party that you're looking at, there's big. Brendan Fraser, there's Arnold and Maria Shriver. I'm about to get to her. Jon Stewart, I hung out with him all night long, and we watched Pauly Shore get drunk and fall over this night.
Is that Andre?
Andre Agassi, that was. So all these people here. Luke Perry. Oh, there's Charlie Sheen. This is the kind of thing it was. I mean, everybody was there from Rosie to Roseanne, Tigger.
These are all
Tigger to Sly. Oh yeah, Bruce Willis got up on stage with his band and played, and I was there for the whole thing. And I'll tell you how this happened. There's Rosie. I'll tell you how this happened. So let me stop sharing the screen while I explain this story here. I'm covering it for Fox 13 in Tampa, and I'm a young news photographer at the time. I'm probably 24, 25 years old. So I'm there as a cameraman the night before as they put the finishing touches on the building and get everything ready for the next day. And I'm scheduled to come back and cover it again the next day. So I see this limo pull up in the parking lot, and I'm wandering around just getting some shots of people doing things. We've already put together our story, so I just have a tape in there, and I'm just getting some extra shots. And out of the limo comes Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he takes his son, and he throws his son up on his shoulders, and he starts walking away. And Maria Shriver grabs another one of the kids by the hand, and they go walking over to look at the new Planet Hollywood and see it the night before the grand opening, right? Well, as a young photographer, I am eager and I'm excited and I'm like, whoa, it's Arnold and Maria. I'm going to run over to them. And so I run over, I flip on my light, and I come around a corner, and there they are. And Maria Shriver just goes ballistic on me, man. She starts screaming at me and cussing at me, and really is very, very angry at the way.
Because of the kids?
Well, yeah, because of the kids and the way I approached them. I mean, I got to admit, I did kind of come around the corner, catch them off guard, and they were like, whoa. And Arnold probably would have punched me or something, but he had his son on his shoulder. I think that's the son that's grown up now. And he's an
actor, Patrick
Schwarzenegger. So I think he's got Patrick on his shoulder. And Maria screams at me, and I shut the light off, and I said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And I go back to our satellite truck, and I walk in, and I tell the two guys in there, Steve Nichols and Ted Maley, that, wow, Maria Shriver just went nuts on me. And next thing I know, there's a knock on the door, the satellite truck door, and it's a press person. And she's so nice, she says, I've come with an apology from Maria Shriver. She is horrified at the way she just acted toward you, and she's really upset, and she just wanted me to come and tell you that she's very sorry for the way that she acted. And they didn't ask me for the tape. They didn't do any of that. And she said she was very scared that somehow you were getting shots of their kids, and they don't really want their children out there, you know, in the media and things like that.
But they brought them to.
But they didn't know that I was going to be there. I was the only journalist there, and they didn't know any journalists were going to be there. So, you know, I'll give them that. So what I did, and I knew that I could call up Hard Copy or Inside Edition and sell them that tape for $5,000 on the spot. It would have been huge. Right. And it would have eclipsed. It would have been the big thing about the opening of the Planet Hollywood. But instead, I hit the eject button, and I took the raw tape that I hadn't even looked at yet. And I handed it to her, and I wrote a little note on it. And I said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And I realized that, like, part of that was my fault, too. So no hard feelings, Steve. And I put that on my business card, taped the business card to the tape. And I said, please give her this tape. This is the only, I promise you, this is the only copy of that tape. The next thing I know, knock on the door again, right as we're about to leave. And she said, the Schwarzeneggers were so happy and impressed by what you just did that tomorrow you get all access. And I mean all access. So I go to this Planet Hollywood party. I can go anywhere. I'm walking up and down that red carpet, shooting video of everybody. I get up on stage with Bruce Willis and his band. I get to go into Planet Hollywood. No other journalists got to go inside Planet Hollywood. It was only Disney people and Planet Hollywood people. And I end up standing there all night talking to a younger Jon Stewart about his show, which happened to be on our network, on our television station. And as I'm getting to Jean-Claude Van Damme. So as I'm trying to shoot all the memorabilia and the things that are hanging from the ceiling of this big globe, a Planet Hollywood is like a planet, you know, it's Earth, and you're inside a big dome. So I'm shooting everything on the ceiling, and when you're shooting with an old television camera, you're blind on one side because the whole camera is on your shoulder and you can't see to your right. So as I lower my hand down, I elbow someone right in the face. And it's Jean-Claude Van Damme. And if you've ever seen, if you go back, if you look at pictures of Jean-Claude Van Damme, he has a lump on his head. He's got this lump on one side of his head that looks like he just got bumped in the head. I didn't know it at the time. And he says, oh, you hit me in the head. Do you know how much my face is worth? Oh, I have to find my attorneys. This is going to be bad for you. And dude, I was so scared. I was horrified. I'm like, oh, how did I do that? And then he laughed and he said, that's fine. You're fine. I've always had this on my head. This is just part of my face, my ugly face. He was a super gracious guy and very nice. But I got to hand it to him and Maria Shriver and Arnold Schwarzenegger. They were very good to me that night, and I to this day am sorry that I came running up on you with my big bright light and my camera with your kids. So there's my Florida man history story. That's a good one.
You're listening to Barrett and Baxa, Media Schmedia. Real stories, raw takes, and the slow, strange death of traditional media.
All right, so recently we've been talking about language. Steve and I obviously use
We are linguists. I'm a linguist.
We're very
by
good.
profession.
Very lingual. And it occurred to me, I have teenagers in my life. Well, one teenager and one 20-something that are in my life. And I was listening to her talk the other night, and it just kind of triggered a memory. Teenagers use the word like constantly. If let's say you ask a teenager, hey, you went to the store. What happened at the store? Well, like when I went to the store, there was this this guy. He was old. He was standing there and and they say constantly. And I can remember, and this is a clear memory in my head. 1975. I'm in fourth grade, and a kid is telling a story and saying the word like all the time. And the teacher would say, I can remember this teacher saying, try not to like it so much. He would always say, try not to like it so much. And that was him saying, don't use the word like. So as much as slang changes and language changes
never.
over time, some things never change.
Yeah, it's
Why
true.
do adolescents use the word like? And quite frankly, I think some adults say
no,
like. It's
I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but I know people that do that. Much too much. And it's weird because you're right, that doesn't change, but language totally changes. I mean, I read, or I didn't read, I actually heard, I think I was listening to a podcast a long time ago, and it was with a real linguist, I think that's what you'd call him, and they were saying that if you were to take a person who speaks perfect English today, and you were to drop them 400 years in the past, that they would not understand any language. They wouldn't be able to understand English, someone speaking perfect English. And so it changes completely.
Dramatically.
There was something called, like, it's from like 500 to 300 years ago, called the Great Vowel Shift. And in English, like, all of our vowels and the way that we say them, like saying I instead of A, like different, like E would not have been E, it would have been it. Or O wouldn't have the W sound, it would just be O. So
and vowels change over time.
Yeah, and the vowels all change. But not only do the vowels change, the way that we construct our sentences change, and we've shortened the way that we say things.
Well, contractions. One thing is contractions. There was no such thing. If you look, even go to colonial times, go to the writings of Thomas Jefferson, the writings of John Adams, and all the famous founding fathers. Obviously, they all wrote a shitload. So there's tons of examples of their writing. There is no such thing as a contraction. Don't, can't, won't, would've. None of those things exist. So if you think about how often you use contractions in your everyday speech, I mean, who says do not? I do not want you to. Like, nobody would ever say that. You say I don't want you to go. Like, you say don't. It's much more common, and it's not bad English to say don't. But even that, the colonial time wasn't that long ago.
It's hard to read Shakespeare. It's difficult to read and understand what's going on. The Bible's the same way, but someone at the time of Shakespeare probably could read that, and it's perfect English to them. Like, that makes perfect sense. Everything that Shakespeare is saying, or whatever play is up on the stage right now, I understand what they're saying. Whereas now you look at it and it's like, what the hell are they? It's like listening to an opera singer and try to figure out what they're singing.
Go look at the Declaration of Independence. Every time the letter S was like an F. It was like a lowercase f. So every time there's
even
an
writing,
S
I guess,
there,
has changed.
Yeah, the writing, has changed. Well, God, look at the way people used to write. How gorgeously constructed, like calligraphy. Now go, speaking of what.
So in the Constitution, it says things like, we like our own like nation now, and like. We like want to be free, like from England, like.
Wait, I have a great quote on this exact topic. I have a great quote. You have to name the movie. All right. Here's the quote. So, like, what Jefferson was saying, man, was we left this England place because it was bogus.
Fast Times from Ridgemont High.
Rules ourselves pronto, then we'll just be bogus too. Nice. Nicely done.
Good. It was Spicoli. It was Jeff Spicoli.
Yeah. Talking to
I knew that it could have been Bill and Ted. For a second, I thought it was Bill and Ted.
You got
but it was Spicoli. All right.
Nicely done. And we didn't even talk about that in the pre-show meeting. So
all right.
That was good. Very nice. See, Steve and I are on the same wavelength. Gen X, baby. Really, let's face it, Generation X is
coolest
the best
generation. Best music, best clothes.
Best everything.
Yeah, we had the fashion, the music, the movies, the best movies.
Everything. It's from 65 to 80. So if you were born from 1965 to 1980, you are Generation X. And here's what I know every generation thinks they're the best, but the real reason to me is we are the last generation to make it all the way to adulthood. Our entire childhood, no internet. And I think that the internet really does
Ruined us.
destroy children's minds. It obviously
screen
helps
time
them,
is
but
so bad for kids.
It's horrible. And we're the last generation that made it through our entire childhood with there was no screen in my life. I didn't have a screen till I was well into my mid to late 20s. So my childhood, I mean, the only screen was the TV screen. And, you know, if your parents were watching something, there goes the TV.
Yeah.
You're out of luck. So that's why Gen X is the best.
All right, we are the best.
There you go. Yep.
All right, back to some media stuff. And this is my opinion. I consider it fact in my brain, but it's an opinion.
Right.
When you're consuming media, it's my belief that if you refuse to consume any media from the other side of the aisle that you might identify with, right?
Yes.
If you refuse, like if I consider myself conservative and I absolutely refuse to watch CNN, I absolutely refuse to read the New York Times, and I will not consume any of that. Or if I'm on the left and I absolutely would never watch something that Fox News did, or I would never listen to a podcast that is right-leaning, I think if you won't do that, you're part of the problem. And I think everybody in the middle needs to gather together and leave those people on the outskirts. And I think that's a good identifying factor when it comes to trying to decide whether you are part of the problem. So you could say, if you refuse to consume media that you disagree with, you're part of the problem.
Yes, and we wouldn't be able to do this podcast if I didn't consume leftist media. I mean, that's where all our fun
that's where the fun stuff comes from.
I watch Morning Joe every morning. I actually listen because I'm usually in my truck. But MSNBC is offered, if you have satellite radio, you get the audio of every cable, all the cable news channels. So I get Fox News and MSNBC, and I listen in my truck. And oh my God, they're so delusional, and it's just unbelievably entertaining.
But you'll listen
CNN,
to it.
Same thing.
And if they make a good point, Bob,
absolutely, all the time. But don't you think don't you think a conservative is more likely to give some time to MSNBC than a rabid MSNBC viewer is to give time to Fox?
I know that I know both. I know that I have conservative friends that say, I will not watch that shit over on MSNBC. And I know that I have people that are Democrats that are like, man, I would never, ever watch Fox News. And I'd like to say to them, maybe I'm saying it to them right now, well, you're part of the problem.
They're
you're part of the problem.
You should see what the other side is saying. I don't know. People always talk about how do we come back together. To be honest, I honestly don't know how we ever can come back together. I'm not sure.
Well, I think we need to create a completely new media landscape. I think we need to.
Well, everyone's talking about a third party. The problem with a third party is so if it's a more right-leaning party, then it's going to split the Republican vote and the Democrats will win. If it's a more left-leaning party, it's going to split the left vote, the Democrats.
But we've done it before. We've had other parties before. There have been periods in American history when we've had multiple parties.
The Whigs and the Tories.
Yeah, and we've had to divide up, and one party would have to work with another party and build coalitions.
Right. I don't think 3 is enough. It would be great if there was like 7 and there were like 2 main ones and then some small ones. And then the 2 main ones would maybe like 30% of the people would be Democrat, 30% Republican, and then the other 40% would be split up with these small parties, and then the small parties would have to work with the large parties.
Well, let's work on that, Bob. We'll see if that can be a goal of the Barrett and Baxa podcast, is that we change the media or the political landscape completely. We already know we're going to change the media landscape completely. Now let's work on the political landscape, and then we'll solve the environmental problems. So we have to do it one at a time. Like Carrie says, you can't go straight through the mountain. Sometimes you've got to go around. So let's go around the mountain. As one of my notes here on this topic, I have you down your take on the AutoPen conspiracy.
Well, it's CNN or the Biden team. Yeah, this to me sums up the problem and it's in this case it's CNN, but it's all the legacy media. So Trump had been putting out statements about did Biden even sign these pardons? Did Biden sign these laws? What did Biden know? When did he know? And these are legitimate questions. I mean, we know for a fact that Biden's brain is broken. It has been broken for a long time. Mm-hmm. We know that. Right. That's not debatable. Biden's brain is gone. And maybe not fully yet, but it's largely gone. We've all seen it. So, Trump put out some questions. Hey, what if his brain was messed up? How do we know that these pardons are real or anything else? So, of course, Team Biden puts out a statement. That's ridiculous. The auto pen was used in conjunction with the law. Joe made all the decisions. Now, if
it was I made all the decisions. It was as if it was from Joe. When you know that Joe cannot write, even in his right mind, he would never write something in this way. That was written by a speechwriter,
right? But it was
or a press secretary type person.
And it was written in the first person, and it said, I made all the decisions. Right. I'm the one who did everything. So now, if CNN had been a real network, what they would have said was, hang on, that's bullshit. I mean, they wouldn't say bullshit, but they would figuratively say, bullshit, that's bullshit. Joe, we know you're full of crap. You did not make the decisions. We saw you bumbling and fumbling. Mm-hmm. We saw you staggering around. You couldn't get off a stage. So just because your team put out this statement in your name, we want to look at every single pardon. We want to examine the signature. We want to ask you, Joe, what was your mindset when you pardoned John Doe? What was your mindset when you pardoned this one and this one and this one? Why did you withdraw from Afghanistan and not, keep whatever that air base's name was? Why did you, leave the troops downtown? Why did you get people killed? Like, we should go through every single thing that Joe did and see if it's real. But, of course, what CNN did was, as soon as Team Biden put out that statement, they were like, oh, controversy over. The auto pen was not an issue, and they just moved on. So that's why CNN has no credibility. They're just, I don't think they're ever coming back.
Well, so CNN also interviewed someone this week, George Clooney, so we're talking about conspiracy theories, and and this is now, I guess, a conspiracy theory, because leading up to the election, everyone on the left was saying, if Trump gets elected again, that's the end of democracy. This will be the end of democracy. So now we're 4 months in. That's not a long time. 4 months in, but they've already changed their tune. And George Clooney completely changes his tune in this interview that he did with Anderson Cooper as they were about the play that he's doing on Broadway about Edward R. Murrow. They broadcast it live, and then leading up to it, they were interviewing George Clooney. And one of the questions that Anderson Cooper is asking him is about the future of the Republican Party. So let me share this. We're going to play this clip.
Do you think Trumpism lasts beyond this term?
Don't think so. I think it'd be very hard to do it. Remember this: Donald Trump is a celebrity. That's what he is. I mean, he's got he has a star on Hollywood Boulevard. I don't have a star on Hollywood. I'm not lobbying for one. I'm just saying,
It seems like an oversight, by the way.
What's going on? He's a celebrity, and he's the president of the United States, and so he has been elected, duly elected. Fair deal. I'm not complaining about that. That's how it works. That's how this democracy works. But he's also a celebrity, and he is charming. And to the people who like him, they think he's funny. To a great many others, they don't. And so when he is finished, and he will be finished, they're going to have to go looking for someone who can deliver the message that he delivered with the same kind of charisma. And they don't have that.
Okay.
Wait.
So funny. Democracy's not over? Hold on.
Right. What happened to that?
Clooney doesn't think that democracy's over, and he's not a dictator. He's a celebrity. He's just a celebrity.
I thought he was Hitler. He's actually Hitler. And they said literally. They used the word literally. This guy is literally Hitler.
And Trump, I love the way Anderson Cooper tries to throw in that word Trumpism. Like, we're gonna go down in history. It'll be known as Trumpism from now on, like Nazism.
Right, exactly. That's a
And
good
it's
point.
not like
They're trying to
Clooney.
make
It's
it
not like Clooney
Nazism.
was like fighting in his mind with it. He just went, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Right.
No, not a problem. No problem. We'll have a Democrat president next time, and we'll get the power back.
Well, he might be right, but I'll tell you right now, he's wrong about Trumpism. Trump has taken over Trump has say what you want about Trump. This guy came in and he completely changed the Republican Party into something else, to the point now where really an average blue collar, it was unheard of. You know, the guys I work with who work in a literal rock quarry like Fred Flintstone, there's actual guys working in a rock quarry. That guy, it was unheard of for that guy to vote Republican. A Republican was a guy at a country club playing golf. A guy at a rock quarry like Fred Flintstone, that's a Democrat. That's it.
Now
There's
it's
nothing else to
flipped
discuss.
on its ear.
And now, this guy, I talked to this one guy in particular, this guy Pete, he is hardcore Trump. And I don't even know if he thinks of himself as a Republican, but he would never vote Democrat. The Democrat Party is now the party of ultra-wealthy elites and utterly helpless poor people who are living off of the government. Everyone in between. So our entire gigantic middle class identifies much more closely now with the Republican Party. And that, say what you want about Trump, that is all because of Trump. It's not because of Mitt Romney. It's not because of freaking John McCain or George Bush. It's because of Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And the next Republican is going to be a Trumpy Republican like J.D. Vance, like Marco Rubio, like Byron Donalds in Florida or any one of those guys. So Trumpism is just getting started as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. So Bob, we found something that we like coming from someone who apparently he describes himself as a Democrat, and that's Mark Halperin, and his new podcast, Up Next. And then he also has a podcast platform called Two Way. But he made a really good point that you pointed out, that journalists are currently asking the wrong question about Biden's decline. And instead of asking the question, did you see it? Skip over that question, because if you get a no, it's a lie. If they say, no, I didn't see his decline, you know that that's a lie. So skip over that question completely and go straight to the when you saw it, because we know you saw it. When you saw it, why didn't you say anything?
It's a great question. It just recently, at this point, it's probably about 2 weeks ago, but Bill Clinton was saying, I didn't see anything. I didn't, So they keep asking these prominent Democrats, did you see anything in private? And of course, every last one of these lying scumbags is going to say, no, I saw nothing. So you're right. The correct question is, you saw that Biden was senile, just like everyone else. We all saw Biden's senility. My question to you is, you're a top Democrat elected official. Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you do anything? And I would love to hear, that's a question that I would love. And this is the problem the Democrats have going into, even in 26, but certainly in 28. Someone's going to figure out that question. Some journalist is going to start asking that. And not say, did you see anything, but say, when you saw it, we know you did. Why didn't you say more?
And I wonder,
and this is going to be hard.
In history, I wonder how this is going to be written. Is this going to be, get a name like The Big Lie or The Great Deception or, some sort of a catchphrase like Watergate? It doesn't have its catchphrase yet. Right now, it's just The Cover-Up. But I think it needs a name.
Idiot Gate. Everything is with the word gate. They take.
I know it's gate now.
So dumbass gate. I don't know. I don't know what it will be called. And I think the answer to your question is yes. This is going to be. It's the biggest political scandal in history.
It
have
is
the 25th Amendment. It
and
exists.
no one used
it. If it doesn't exist for this, then what is it for? Mm-hmm. How much more incompetent can a president be than Joe Biden was? If you're not going to at least, they wanted to 25th Amendment Trump from day one, and Biden is a fumbling, bumbling fool, and it never came up. It's really a gigantic
disappointing.
And
it's really sad.
It really is. And it's going to be hard for them to get the stench of it off of them. They smell bad, man, and they ain't getting that smell off anytime soon.
All right, let's go through a couple of other things somewhat quickly because we are running over, even though people keep asking for more, so we're giving you more. We're doing what you want.
Yeah.
The flamethrower. So this is almost a week old at this point. The flamethrower, as we've sort of, which I call him that because he threw the Molotov cocktails and then lit himself on fire at the same time, right at the beginning. Yeah, there's that new clip where you can see, and I don't know if it's the first Molotov cocktail, but he throws it and it gets all over him. That's why he was shirtless, and that's why he's all bandaged and burned, because he catches himself on fire. It's just a little clip that you can find on the internet. But
but he's an Egyptian guy in our country illegally, and he's trying to kill Jews. And what he says is he wants to kill Jews.
Yeah.
So there's no mystery here.
Yeah, and it should be a hate crime, and there should never have been any question about whether or not anybody should have been jumping to a conclusion. You know, normally if it was the Biden administration, they would have said, well, the local police department says this, but the FBI says this, and we don't understand why the local police department is not agreeing with the FBI. But in this case, they said the opposite. They said, well, the FBI jumped to conclusions and suddenly said that it was a hate crime. Meanwhile, the local police have not come to that conclusion. Well,
the media are such scumbags, man. They really, you don't hate them enough. Yeah, you're totally
right. It is. They can't be trusted. Keith Olbermann said that somehow made it out to be Trump's fault.
I'm not even sure. I think
How is
Keith
that?
Olbermann is mentally ill. Everyone knows this. He's mentally ill. He has TDS really bad. He says that an attack on Jews in Colorado by a Muslim extremist is Trump's fault. So I think basically his mindset is Orange Man bad. So any bad thing that happened, it must be because of Orange Man. There's no other. Everything bad happens because of the badness of Orange Man. That is kind of that's not even really an exaggeration. That is how they feel.
Okay, and Jamie Raskin, you were complaining that he he tried to relate it to gun control.
So let's look at the facts of the case. An Egyptian man made a makeshift flamethrower out of a weed killer
because he couldn't get a gun legally. Because he couldn't get a gun because the gun laws work.
He made Molotov cocktails. He threw fire and tried to burn Jews. So Jamie Raskin, of course, said we need more gun control. That's the way he actually thinks that more gun control is going to stop people from burning up. I'm not really sure how his mind works.
And then he also said instead of just talking about this incident, he also said that it was also bad.
He had to bring up an incident from 3 years ago.
Palestinians were attacked 3 years ago in some other incident.
And that's very typical of Democrats. If they can never just say something bad about one of the disfavored groups. So if a white person is attacked, they'll say, oh, it's bad that they were attacked. But don't forget that a lot of black people have also been attacked. That has nothing to do with this. If a Jew is attacked, yes, it's bad that the Jew was attacked. But don't forget, also some Palestinians were attacked. That's the typical Democrat politician method of talking. Never just criticize a favored group. Also, always throw in a criticism of a disfavored group as well.
Yeah.
So that's the way that works.
Simone Biles stepped in it. The Olympic
you see my
gymnast,
shirt, right? Let me show my whole shirt.
Save girls sports.
Save girls sports.
It's common sense.
XX does not equal XY. So that, of course, refers to chromosomes. Everyone knows that we are very fired up. At least I am. Steve is less fired up, and he does agree with me.
Yeah, I am less fired up.
Boys do not belong in girls' sport. Boys do not belong in girls' sports. And, one of the common things I hear a lot on this issue, I see this on TikTok a lot or on Facebook. They'll be like, you're so stupid. There's 4 cases of it in the whole country, and you're getting worked up over nothing. There's literally 4 cases. So
I agreed with that. If you would have asked me 3-4 months ago, I went, look, these are rare. But now every week there's a new case of this. It's the softball team now.
Yes, and also the track. A.B. Hernandez, the track star, and the softball player. There's thousands of these cases across the country. But I've said this before on this show. I don't care if it's one boy in rural Iowa who's on a girl's team. I'm going to go to rural Iowa and I'm going to shut down that one boy. This issue is non-negotiable. We're not playing with you on this issue. You're not going to let your son play girl sports. And I don't know what kind of despicable father would allow his son to play girl sports. I mean, you have mental issues yourself, dude. But you're not, if your son wants to play sports, he plays sports against boys. And if he wants to wear eye makeup while doing so, who cares? Let him do it. If he wants to wear a dress while he's playing boys football, that's fine. I got no problem with that. But if your boy says male on his birth certificate, he will be playing against boys for the rest of his life. That's it. And case closed. It's non-negotiable. You're not going to play girl sports. End of story.
All right. That one's over. Now let's get to a new segment.
You get me worked up.
I know. I love to get you worked up. That one is so easy to work you up on that one.
So easy.
Hey, we got another new. Well, we sort of had to invent a new segment because we are repeatedly doing a segment on dumb things that Democrats and left-leaning media have come up with.
Right.
And this week, what did we have? We had the forward and back. We're looking forward. We're not looking back.
Yeah, we're not
we
looking
had
back.
what was
That
the one
was
with
Ambush.
we had ambush, which happened with Trump in
Every
the
anchor
Oval
said
Office, and
ambush,
every
yeah.
anchor said.
Right.
And this week it's taco, which died on the vine, dude, quicker than any of them.
So TACO stands for Trump Always Chickens Out. And it's apparently...
It's directed at the terrorists.
First of all, yeah, Trump is... the Democrats are horrible at trolling, and they're constantly trying... Trump is a genius at trolling. He trolls them regularly, and then they try to troll him back, and they always fail. So Eric Swalwell did something...
Eating a taco at his desk. It was so dumb.
Yeah. And they all keep bringing up taco. It really, like you said, it's pretty much already died. It did not gain any traction. So every week we're going to have a new example of, what is it again? Democrats.
Stupid SDT.
Stupid Democrat.
Yeah,
tricks.
SDT. It's like an STD.
STD.
It's like an STD
Right.
because it spreads wildly, right?
It is, it's as irritating
but it's an
as
SDT, a stupid Democrat
Right.
trick. So
There we go.
watch for those. We're gonna try to have it.
Every
I mean,
week
we're gonna have them as often as we can. So sometimes it might be 2 SDTs in a week.
Right, and that's never good when you have multiple STCs.
I know.
That'll really...
You see the doctor if you have multiple
Definitely.
SDTs.
So try not to get...
All right, that
Right.
brings us toward the end of the show here, and we do pet
Yes.
peeves last. I'll go first.
Okay.
Pet peeves. Two of
All
my
right,
pet
go.
peeves this week were pet peeve number 1 is my stupid car and Bluetooth. Why can't we get Bluetooth right? Because one of my vehicles, when I walk near it, it connects to my phone. So I'll be on the phone talking to somebody.
Right.
I'll go out to my garage, which I love. It's my favorite room in the house is my garage. So I'm out in the garage working on something, and I'll have like my earpiece in or something, or just be talking to somebody on speakerphone, and suddenly it goes away. And then I realize that one of my SUV, not one of them, I only have one, my SUV has taken over my phone. I haven't started it. I'm not climbing into it. The doors are closed,
so
but
weird.
yet it like takes control. And I don't know why we can't get that right, because everybody has that frustration. And then you get in your car and then it won't connect. And then it connects,
Right.
and you can't hear anything for like 10 seconds while the damn thing connects. We can't get Bluetooth right. And I have an argument to make here. I think that there are certain things, technologies that seem like really, really awesome, but we're never going to get it right. And it's Bluetooth's been around long enough that we haven't gotten it. If we haven't gotten it right now, we're not getting it right, and we're just going to have to suffer through it, and it's going to be a half-assed technology forever. And one of the other half-assed technologies, I relate this to when you go in the bathroom and you try and use the motion sensor for the faucet,
Yes.
or the paper towels, or
Why
the
do we
soap.
need that?
Yeah,
Why do
just
we need
hit
that?
the button.
Really?
Just hit the button.
I mean,
Here's what you
come
do:
on.
you walk into the bathroom. You get a couple paper towels. You go choop choop, and you get a couple of them out of the dispenser. Then you use the button and you get your soap. Then you use the button and you turn on the faucet. And we had,
Right.
okay, if it's a saving water thing, okay, we had a system. Remember you had the button, you'd press it, and then slowly it would shut off after about
Comes
15
up, yeah.
seconds. If you need it again,
That
hit it
seems
again.
like a good middle
That one
ground.
worked perfectly. But now we all have to suffer through these stupid motion detectors.
And the stupid eye, like you're always trying to find the eye, and
it's
the
not
eye
in the right
never
place.
registers well. And then
Hate
when,
that,
as soon as
dude.
you move your
Hate
hand
that.
to the water, it shuts off the eye. Like the whole
So
thing
that's
is
two
very
things that we
annoying.
will
That's a good
never,
pet peeve.
ever get right. And we're just going to have to suffer through it because companies are going to keep installing the technology and we're going to keep being annoyed with it.
Correct. All right. I have two pet peeves. One is, of course, related to my best girl because I always have to use pet peeves about her. The other one's about me. But my best girl pet peeve is she is Michael Scott. There is a, in at least one area, she is Michael Scott. There is a famous episode where Michael and Dwight, I forget where they're going. They're driving
It's a
somewhere
sales.
together.
It's some kind of a sales meeting.
Was it a sales call?
Yeah.
All right. So they're driving together, and Michael's driving, of course, his convertible, which is a horrible car in Pennsylvania. Dwight doesn't like it. And the GPS says turn right. So now, of course, there's a street, and then there's like a lake before the street.
Yeah.
And the GPS says turn right, and Michael starts turning into the lake. And Dwight's like, Michael, no, it means... And Michael's like, no, the GPS
Told
is
me to
saying
turn.
turn right. And Dwight's like, Michael, it means at the street, not into the lake. So me and my best girl were coming back from Niagara Falls. And there was a road that her GPS was saying that we should take. Now, it was covered in snow. It hadn't been plowed. And it looked like a mountain road that would probably kill you. And I was like, I don't think we should go this way. And she said, but the GPS says that this is the right road. And I was like, well, this thing in front of us called the window is telling me that this is not the right road. So I went with the window, and we did not take that road. But my other pet peeve is my broken brain. So I am always, and I think I actually damaged I damaged my brain with drugs, but I throw a lot of temper tantrums. And
You're like Elon
I'm not
Musk.
sure why. Yes, I throw temper tantrums. And I did therapy recently, like
Really?
a couple of months ago. I did online therapy, and the lady was very nice. It was one of those online therapy things where you do like a phone session. And it cost me
BetterHelp
like
or
400
something?
bucks. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And it cost me like $400. And she told me the reason why I do this is because drug addicts have lost the ability to regulate their emotions, and because they've always regulated their emotions with drugs. And when they felt an emotion, they would just get high, and then the emotion would go away. And that is true. So she's like, you don't know how to correctly monitor and regulate your emotions, which I think is great. She didn't tell me how to help it. She didn't tell me how to stop throwing tantrums. So my pet peeve is my broken brain. I have to figure out how to stop throwing temper tantrums about dumb shit and driving my best girl crazy. So I'm throwing that one in as kind of a self-owned.
Wow,
on
Bob's
me.
broken
Yes.
brain.
My broken brain.
So I can
is
start
a pet
blaming your
peeve.
broken
So-
brain on things. When I'm
Yes,
making fun of
definitely.
you?
If I do something wrong, just blame
That's
my
Bob's broken brain.
And, we're going to work on that through this podcast.
Work
we're gonna
on your
work
brain.
On making my brain.
We should probably do
work
something
better.
about my brain as well, because we just haven't gotten it. You sent me a text and you said, "Why don't you identify some of your shameful acts, Steve?" And there was dead silence. You could hear crickets.
Right,
I was
exactly.
like,
So we'll get into those in a later episode.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap.
Yeah,
this
we're going to
up.
wrap it up. I'm going to wrap it up with a couple of things. One is to make sure that you subscribe, you give us a comment, and you click like, all of those kinds of things. But also, I want you to listen to our music here as we go out. This is Rico Monaco. You can find him on any platform out there that has music. Rico Monaco. It is spelled exactly how it sounds. He plays great music, and that's why I love it, and that's why we use it as our bumper music on the Barrett and Baxa podcast. All right, everybody.
Thanks for listening. We'll
Good
see you
night for
next
this week, or good day for this week, whenever you're listening.
Right.
Well, that's it for this episode of Barrett and Baxa Media Schmedia. Like, subscribe, and do all that other stuff podcasts want you to do. Become one of the chosen few, the in crowd. You know, the cool kids. The ones who were passed out on Barrett's pool deck long after the party ended.
You don't say I love you like you used to before.